Okay, this is lesson 2 of the second module, where we're focusing on facts about your house. Today we're going to be talking about the building and zoning codes that are most likely to come up when you update a mid-century home. We'll talk about electric outlets, stair steepness, fire safety, and more. If you're going to hire out your home remodel, then the contractors who do the work will ultimately be responsible for meeting the building code. However, knowing what they have on their mind will help you better participate in the process. If you're taking on any of this work DIY, then you absolutely need to familiarize yourself with the local building code. I'll start with a little disclaimer. What I discuss here is not intended to replace the advice of an expert who is familiar with your home and locality. Advice given in this general format can't replace the necessity to check your home and adhere to your state and city code requirements. All code coverage is intended as an overview for your general homeowner awareness. That circles back around to my general advice throughout this remodel. When in doubt, call an expert for a quick consult. In case of local code issues, your local building department is the expert that you can confirm and clarify any code-related issues with. All right, with that out of the way, let's get to know our friend the building code a little better. Here's a question to kick us off. Do you assume that any building you walk into will stand up for as long as you're inside it? If a fire breaks out, do you expect that an alarm will go off and you'll be able to push your way out of any door that stands between you and safety? Do you take it for granted that you can heat up food without being smothered in gas fumes and that you can flush a toilet and have the waste carried smoothly out of your life? If so, thank the building code. It is simply a set of laws enacted by your town, county, or state government that sets construction standards to protect your comfort and safety. It's enforced by the building permit and inspection process. This is why you need a permit, and you will run into it when you plan to update a mid-century home. That's because the building code changes over time, updating to reflect new technology, increased standards for safety, effectiveness, and energy efficiency. Any part of your home that you add on will have to meet current code requirements, and any existing areas of your home that you modify significantly will have to be checked out and possibly brought up to date to meet codes that weren't in place at the time your house was built. I can't and won't walk you through every potential issue that might come up in a remodel, but here are a few key code areas for you to be aware of. I'll illustrate these in some cases by talking about specifics of the code that applies to Madison, Wisconsin, or showing diagrams about houses that are built here in Madison. These specifics may or may not apply in your jurisdiction, but it's likely that the same general conditions or areas of the house will be regulated in the same way, and you can check for relevant details that apply to your home. We'll talk about how you can find out more information about your area and its requirements at the end of this lesson. So, first off, let's talk zoning. This will come up if you plan any changes to the footprint of your house, any additions, or even if you plan to connect an existing garage and your house to each other, you might find you're running into zoning questions. The first zoning ordinance in America was done in New York in 1916. This code divided the city up into zones with allowable uses. It covered manufacturing and commercial and residential areas. It set allowed building heights, required courtyards for light and ventilation, and also mandated front yards, also known as front setbacks, in all but the most built-up areas. Over the next 20 years, most of America had adopted some sort of zoning law. You are almost guaranteed to be affected by this. This will apply to you if you want to build out toward your property lines. You may run into a boundary of planned empty space, known as a setback. In Madison, for example, most of the mid-century residential areas have a front setback of 30 feet, a side yard setback of 6 feet, and a backyard setback of 35 feet or 30% of property depth, whichever is less. While your back and side setbacks will begin at the property boundary that touches your neighbor's property, the front property line might not be the street or the sidewalk edge. Pay attention to that. It is often 30 feet from the center line of the street. If you have concerns about setbacks, the simplest thing to do is call the city and ask for more information. Variances are possible, but not easy or guaranteed, so it's always best not to set your heart on an addition that intrudes on a setback area. All right, now that we have a big picture code issue out of the way, let's switch gears and talk about a very detail-oriented one, the electric code. Many mid-century homes don't meet modern electric code. In fact, they're almost guaranteed not to. If your kitchen and bathroom have never been changed, they're pretty much sure to be non-compliant. The way the code works is that existing homes are grandfathered into the system. You don't have to rush around tearing out walls to add electrical outlets to an otherwise untouched house. But when you start making changes, All the new work will have to meet modern code, and if you change a lot about certain areas of your house or the house overall, you may be asked to go ahead and bring areas or the entire house up to modern standards in the process. You're going to run into changes in the electric code most often in your kitchen and bathroom. In the bathroom, you'll find that your outlets and your lights need to be on separate circuits from each other and the rest of the house. Original outlets and lights will most likely be on one circuit. You may be required to add an exhaust fan. That's a good idea in any case, both for smell problems and also to manage moisture and avoid mold. Outlets in your bathroom will now need to be 20 amp GCFI, or ground fault interrupted models. Basically, that means that the outlet is very sensitive to any flow of electricity between the two conducting slots and will trip if there's a problem. It's easy to reset by pushing that red button. This safety feature is meant to prevent you from electrocuting yourself, and it's handy in a bathroom where we're more likely to have wet hands. Again, the building code is our friend. In kitchens, the rules are similar. You will also need those 20 amp GCFI outlets to handle your wet hands and the added load of kitchen appliances. You'll need separate circuits for your lights versus outlets, but you're also going to need a lot of outlets for a modern kitchen versus a mid-century one. In a typical mid-century kitchen, you might have an outlet near the fridge and one by the stove, and then maybe one more on the counter for your toaster. A modern kitchen needs to have one GCFI outlet every 4 feet along the counter. Any section of wall wider than 12 inches needs its own outlet. Plus, the dishwasher, garbage disposal, microwave, and electric range will all need their own circuits. Basically, a kitchen update takes a lot of space in your breaker box. Be aware and plan for it. Moving on, let's talk fire separation. This is a small but crucial area of the code. If you have or will have an attached garage, you may need to make changes to the materials on the wall that separates your house from the garage and any doors that go between them. You may need to maintain a proper fire separation between the house and garage. This is as simple as selecting a fire-rated door and using 5/8 inch thick drywall on the garage side of the wall. Again, it just makes good sense. We tend to keep gas and other combustible fluids in our garage, in the car, if nowhere else. It's better to be safe than sorry. And speaking of better safe than sorry, the last key area of code I want to bring to your attention is the egress code. Basically, egress just means exit. It means that in case of calamity, it will be easy and safe for you and your family to get out of the house from wherever you are. Egress code is particularly concerned with doors, stairways, and windows, and it focuses on the bedroom. That makes sense because when you're awake, you're more likely to notice the smell of gas or smoke and take quick action. When you're sleeping, you might not notice until time is short, and then you want to be able to get out of the house immediately. It generally boils down to having at least 2 ways to get out of any bedroom. One of them might be out a window. Main floor bedrooms are generally good to go, but if you add a bedroom to your basement in particular, you're going to need to add a safe egress window, as well as smoke and carbon detectors in the bedroom and adjacent hallway. You may also have to look at the way your stairs are constructed if the basement doesn't have a walkout door. The details of window height, area, and the space required outside them are jurisdiction specific. Ask your local code officials. Again, make sure you are dotting your I's and crossing your T's here. You do not want to go to all the work of adding a basement bedroom only to find that you've placed the window slightly too high and now can't occupy it legally or sell it as an added bedroom. Alright, so how do you go about finding out those exact code specifics that affect your home? With a little Googling, you can often learn everything you need online. Start with a property lookup of your address with a local assessor's website. This will tell you when your home was built, the zoning district, and what the assessor knows about the square footage and building materials. You can also see records of sales, conveyances, going back for some years. Now, once you know your zoning district, you can Google the local zoning code and track down the relevant information about setbacks, height and area restrictions, etc. You can also find out what building code governs your jurisdiction and find a copy of the code online. I warn you, however, that it is dry and likely to be kind of confusing. I find this even though I work with the building code on a regular basis. Sometimes the easiest way to get all this information, plus find out what the city already knows about your home, is just to call and ask them. That will leave no room for doubt. You can ask how to find out the zoning district for your address and then clarify the rules for that area. What are your setbacks, area coverage, and height restrictions? Then ask a few questions about the local building code. At the same time, you can ask if they have any records on file for your house specifically. They can look it up by address and let you know exactly what and when work was done on your home. I have, surprise, created a handy PDF worksheet with a list of questions you can ask your local building department to get the info you need for your home. Download it and print it out, have a look, and then call up the building department office. You can either speak to them on the phone or you might make an appointment to go in and see someone in person. All right, now that you've made a plan to contact your building department for advice, let's think about other useful expert advice you might want for your remodel. Lesson 3 this week will cover what subject matter experts you might want to seek out to learn more about your home.